I've spent the past 365 days trying to live my life like a video game, to see if I could get myself out of a rut. For my birthday last year, I decided to sit down and objectively look at my life. There were so many things that I knew that I could be achieving, things that I knew that I wanted to be doing, and yet I found myself stagnant, stuck, and unable to do anything. So I decided to have a look at parts of my life where my ambitions met my action. Funnily enough, it ended up looking at the video game aspect of my life. I would spend endless nights doing the most menial tasks in order to get this one little achievement. That's when something in my mind clicked. Could I use my past decade's worth of marketing and design knowledge in order to properly analyze what makes video games so addictive and then apply that to real life? So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down 3 different stages of what that journey was like, the things that I've learned, and then have a bonus 4th step at the end that will give you all of the key actionable advice that I would give myself a year ago in order to fast track all of this progress. Now, the concept of taking effective game elements and applying them to real-life situations is not a new one. This is actually very well documented in a research topic called gamification, and it's not new to me either. I've been spending time since when I was in university over 10 years ago trying to learn how I could apply the things that I was learning in the video game courses to real life, how I could take these elements and start applying them to my life to make it more engaging. And there's actually a moment where I had the realization of how to make a game impactful, and that was when it was broken down into 3 core steps. The first stage was simply to create novelty. As humans, we are driven by curiosity and excitement. So if we can make something that is exciting or something that makes people curious about what it is, they are more likely to engage with it. And once we have that, we can move on to the second stage. The second stage is that of purpose and direction. Once a player starts pursuing that novelty, we can start putting these different rule sets in place in order to help guide them along a path that we want them to. Once they know where they're going and how to get there, they're much more likely to engage the world around them in a certain way in order to achieve that goal. And the definition of what that goal is actually helps them give a reason as to why they keep pursuing it. Because once they have a reason, they can start really delving into the third stage. The third being that of challenge and progression. Once you have someone working towards a goal, you want to put challenges in their way that are achievable enough for them to overcome. Because if there is something that is so easy to do, you will get bored of it. If there is something that is too hard to do, you will not be wanting to continually trying to improve on it. But if there's just enough of a challenge, you'll be pursuing that so much harder because there is a challenge that is equal to the effort you're willing to put in. And then once you've achieved that, you can actually look back and see a progress. You can see a character that's leveled up. And by having that progression, you start relying on things like the sunken cost fallacy. You look back at your character and go, I've already invested so much time in this. I'm going to see this to the end. And then once you're able to design around these 3 core elements, you can really start engaging your brain in an interesting way that otherwise would have remained dormant. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to be engaging the brain in a very useful way to helping us pursue the goals that we want to achieve. A good example of this is that I've never really been someone who's enjoyed working out. I've never enjoyed the concept of going to the gym, picking up a heavy thing, putting it back down, and then doing that over and over until I can pick up the heavier thing. That said, currently I'm in the best shape of my life because the past 3+ years I've been going to a gym, except it's not a normal one. It's a climbing gym. I have fallen in love with the process of bouldering. And for those who are unaware of what bouldering is, it's a form of rock climbing where it's inside in a gym, sometimes outside, where you are walking in and you see a bunch of different colorful holds on the wall and you go, how do I get to the top of that thing? See, to me, that was the sense of novelty that immediately made me go, I want to know more about this. I want to go jump on that wall and play around because this seems fun. And the purpose was very straightforward. I had to get from the bottom of the wall to the top of the wall using that one color. How was I going to do that? That was the challenge as well. Throughout the gym, there was multiple different types of climb, different levels of challenge, some for beginners, some for people who've been doing it for over 10 years. And that challenge continually gets harder and harder. There was an endless source of challenge at the effort level that I was willing to put in. And then because they're also graded, I could look back and go, oh, that one that I was struggling with, that number 2 climb, I now do as a warm-up instead of the thing that I need to do for that whole session. And so once I understood the core steps and how they could affect me in a positive route, I started to look at my life and go, how can I start developing a game that is effective for me to be playing every single day, keep me accountable to working towards the goals that I know I wanted to achieve, while still having that passion and just overall excitement to continue doing that? What did I need to do in order to create the game that I was going to play? So knowing how my brain works and that I am very easily distracted from the things that I first set out with excitement towards, I realized that I needed to put a system in place that kept me accountable. See, one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits, like many other people in the self-development space. And in there is one particular quote that I absolutely adore. And that is that you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the levels of your systems. If you have systems in place that stop you from falling after a certain amount and keep you back onto that track, then really that is all you need to focus on. If you can figure that out, then you will already have a baseline that is far beyond anyone else. So my thing was that I needed to find or build a system that could work with me. I started looking into all the apps and development that could have been helpful to me in my life. In particular, the one that got the closest to what I wanted was Habitica. Now for context, I had been using Habitica for a very, very long time, back when it was even called Habit RPG, and I loved the system that it offered. Back in university, I used it to track my absolute daily studies, things that I needed to do every single day, these habits that I need to do on a recurring basis. It gave me the motivation to move forward because I had a character. It was leveling up every time I did the thing that I wanted to do. But the thing with Habitica nowadays is that I have greater aspirations than just my habits. Yes, there is a to-do list and system in there that is kind of helpful, but I wanted a full life management system, something that I could put everything into and then go, okay, what am I doing right now? What is the next thing that I said was important, and how can I motivate myself to do that thing? And sadly, when looking at the whole array of different options that people have already made, none of them did what I wanted them to do. None of them were engaging enough or holistic enough for my whole life in order to manage all of it in one place. See, I wanted something like the system that's out of Solo Leveling, where it prompted me exactly what I need to do in order to achieve a goal, in order to achieve a reward at the end of it. And so that's when the birth of the real-life RPG system came into my life. I wanted to create a system that I knew how to work every single element towards my benefit. And I'd been using Notion for the past decade as well. It was a system that felt like Lego of productivity systems, something where I could build everything I wanted to in the way that I needed to make it work. So I started off with the basics of creating a project management system, something that tracked all my projects and all the tasks I needed to do. Then I started to apply an XP value. Every time I completed a task of a certain difficulty, I got an XP value, and I saw a number that kept going up. I then used this to then develop a leveling system so that each level was harder to reach, but I felt more motivated to achieve that next level. I then started involving other different aspects like gold and different quests and enemies that I had to verse. And then eventually I had something that felt full-fledged. And so I figured that if this was a system that was helping me, I would start documenting the journey of making it and then sharing it with others. And that's exactly what I did. I started sharing this with others and seeing how they were going to interact with this amazing piece of technology that I developed. And that was exactly when everything turned upside down for me. See, after building this system in public, showing the ins and outs of how it worked, and then getting it in the hands of different people, I realized that although I had showed the whole process, there was still a bias in my mind that went, oh, this is basic knowledge, I don't need to explain that. Oh, this code over here, I didn't really explain it in the video, but I know exactly how it works, so therefore it's fine to leave as it is. And that's where I was fundamentally wrong. I saw others trying to use this system and getting immediately confused. They didn't know how X function worked, or how this thing over here managed to actually add to the number that was their levels. What was the pursuit that they were trying to do? How do they choose the villains that they're going to be facing? All of these things that made so much sense to me were absolutely useless in the hands of anybody else. Because one thing that I had completely fundamentally failed to do was designed for the end user. I was designing for myself, assuming that everything was already known. Yes, when I put this in the hands of other people, it made me have to stop and think, what are the effective things that work for everybody? How can I put this in such a simple way that they don't need to worry about the underlying code, how this relation works to here on this database? Whatever it was, I needed it to be as simple as possible. I needed them to open up the game and go, this is what I want to do, now let's get started. And that simple process took way longer than I expected, because what I needed to do was something I hated to do. And that was to scrap everything and start again. I redesigned everything from the ground up, thinking about how people were going to be using it, how people, when they first got their hands on this with no experience on how to code, on how to deal with Notion, whatever it was, they had the ambition of living their life like a video game, and I needed to design for those people. People like myself who were lost and now can actually start to figure out how to take control in their life. And then once I started doing this, I started to see the results. I started to see people impacted in a positive fashion. They got control of their life. They started doing the things that I know they wanted to do, purely because I thought about how to develop this system, not only for me, but for others for us to all start leveling up our lives. I saw how they were using it. I took feedback. I then figured out the bugs that they were having and solved them. I even took time to spend hours upon hours talking to every single user that I could in order to see how they were using it, what they wanted to get out of it, and how I could then implement it into the next update. And then all the while, giving everyone who supported this free updates for the rest of life, because I knew that this was something I wanted long term. So why would I not design it with everybody else who is supporting it being able to access it long term as well. And before I knew it, this small little side project turned into a full-fledged business that was not only supporting me, but helping support other people live their lives the way that they imagined they could. It gave them a structure and the power to do the things in life that they wanted to do to become the people that they know they could. So let me just take a moment to walk you through the system and explain how I came to the different choices that I made in order to develop this whole system. So this is the real life RPG, the interface that I'm using every single day. You can see in there that there is a little avatar that looks like me because I hand animated a character that looked like me. And what I wanted to do with it was create a character that felt like it was me in a video game. It has a level, it has a class, it has a health, experience, all of these different elements. I even created these little sort of prism levels, which kind of act like a user's stats. Every single one of those applying to a different aspect of life. There's a whole walkthrough in this if you wanted to check it out. But the basis of it was, up in the top right hand corner, you see that there is two distinct different areas for me. There is the daily tasks, which became my habits, the things that I knew I wanted to do every single day. And when I tick that off, it gets rescheduled for next day. The ones after that are the tasks I need to get done today. The things that after I've figured out a project, I start breaking it down, what is the thing I need to do next? And that's what shows right there. Right now it says, record what is this video. So as you're watching this right now, I'm about to tick that off. In fact, I'll tick it off as part of this to show you what happens. So right now you'll see that my experience is 117925. Once I click off the little record value thing, and the next thing I'm doing after this is going to be capturing thumbnails. That simple sort of transition of going, oh, that's what I'm doing next. But you'll see that that number has gone up, my experience has gone up, and eventually I'll start leveling up because of it. Now, underneath that, you'll see that I have a, oh, there we go, it's updated a little bit because my computer's going a little bit slow. But there you see, all of these different aspects are happening behind the scenes that the other person who is using this doesn't need to think about. What I can do, though, is make it interesting for the user. So I have a little element that I'm versing, a little air elemental, and that whole challenge right there is going to be the enemy that I'm versing. This is one of probably about 50 different characters that you can verse as a boss battle. Every single day, they're going to be doing different number values and damage to you and have different health and attack levels based on how, whatever your level is. This is a lot of like custom coding that is a video game, but it was something that I know I wanted in my life, so I started developing it for others in their lives and making it so easy that it becomes second nature in order to do it. Now, underneath, I have a bunch of other custom buttons that I've created, but the one thing that I did want to do is have a main menu, and you can add to this depending on whichever interface you want to be developing. But there are some certain aspects that are just baked into this as part of it. When you first actually load up this whole interface, there is a create your character that walks you through this whole system, shows you exactly what the buttons do, what you need to do in order to achieve the next level, and all these different aspects. There's different classes you can choose from there, you have different enemies and whatnot. And then finally, there is actually the quests as well. So for reference, here's the stroller one. Right now I'm reworking a couple of things, but you'll see that I have, right now in the videos, a breakdown of all the different videos I need to do, the challenge rating that they're going to be, so the impact, the different prism thing, and when they're due. So these are all listed as yesterday because I'm a day behind in recording. And then you can go down here, you can see when they're due and whatnot. But the thing is, note that I have all of these things due, and yet on the main interface, I'm simply being shown the one thing I need to do next, because that's what I needed. I needed a system that looked like a quest log that made me go, here is the exact next step that you needed to do. And as you're developing out these quests, that I call them, you can start figuring out the order of importance and then eventually just go, cool, that's what I'm doing now. And this whole system has a lot more different aspects. Down the bottom here, there's a shop where you can add your own prizes so you can feel like you're developing more of a reason to go and spend time with friends on the weekend. But all throughout it, it was focused on how I can create this system to engage with people at a very basic entry level so that they can just take it and run with it. You can customize all this code. You can go through and break down every single one of these things. For reference, these prism levels, if it wants to load up, is a lot of just code. You don't need to understand how all of this works. You can just jump in, play. And if you want to take these and develop it further out into your own system, then by all means. But the thing I wanted to do was make it simple. And because one of the core aspects that I wanted for this was to feel like an interaction that I could have anywhere at any time, I developed it on Notion so that I could have it on my phone. I can go through all of the same stuff that you just saw on the computer, except on my phone. Have all of those access points so that I can actually manage my life no matter where I am, level up every single day in everything that I'm doing. And one of the things that I can officially say is that in every single system that I've played so far, this has been the most effective for me and Honestly, from the hundreds of other people that have used this system, it also seems like it has been working very well for them. So if you want to get a look at this system, there's a link in the description below that you can check it out. If you want to save a little bit, here's a 10% discount. Use the code 365 when it comes to the actual checkout page, and you'll get 10% off. But now let's jump back over into the fourth stage of this, where I'm going to be breaking down the key lessons I learned, and I'd give myself a year ago if I could, in order to save me a lot of time on this journey that I've been doing these past 365 days. Overall, from everything I've learned this past year, there is one core aspect that has taught me that makes it worth it, and that is that I do have the ability, no matter what my circumstances, in order to change the trajectory of my life for the better, to make it so that I can find that passion that was lacking, that I can get myself out of these ruts and continue moving forward, showing that the progress is being made and leveling up so that I can feel fulfilled in my own life. But in order to get there, it is not an easy journey. It is one that's going to be full of challenges, and overall, there is going to be hard times. But pushing through those is exactly what gets me to get up the next day with the excitement that I do. That said, throughout all of this, there are some core guardrails that I have now put in place, and hopefully you can start applying to your life as well. The first is arguably both the easiest and the hardest one to actually get right, and that is changing your mindset to acknowledge that you can grow, you can get better, and you can change the circumstance you're in. You look at any hero's journey and you see that there is a moment where they are called to action. They are called to the journey that is in front of them, and yet there is a moment of hesitation. That hesitation is where you are right now. If you are going to decide to go along this journey and make your life a video game, make your life something that is worth fighting for, then you need to acknowledge that this next step is going to be one of adventure. It is going to be one of hardship that you can push through in order to improve. Everyone can improve. It is whether or not you are choosing to. And that is the core aspect of this first stage, because a lot of people that I've found in this sort of realm is that they feel like they cannot do anything. They cannot make any progress towards the goals they have in life because it just feels like the world is oppressing them. And yes, there is going to be hardships, there is going to be things that feel like they're impossible tasks, but I can guarantee you that if you just stick to it, you will find other routes, you will find other ways to get past, around, through them, whatever it is, you will progress. But only if you choose the journey ahead of you as one in which you acknowledge that there is a path forward at some point. There is a path forward in the way you get stronger, the way you grow, and the way you get better. If you can figure that first stage out, the rest of it does become a hell of a lot easier. Once you have that mind shift change, you can go into the second one, and that was the core principles of the games that are effective. The first being that of novelty. Can you create a curiosity and an excitement for what you are doing? Do you want to explore yourself to understand more? Do you want to push forward because this thing is fun? Once you have the novelty, you can design the purpose. You can understand where you want to go and why you are going there, so that you can then detail out exactly what you need to do. You have your novelty, you have your purpose, and then finally, you can start integrating the challenge. You can know exactly how hard something is going to be by just looking at what it is going to take. If you can figure out what it's going to take and analyze if the challenge is appropriate to where you are, and either scale it back so it's a little bit easier or scale it up so it's a little bit harder. Find that right challenge value for you so that you can look at it and go, I'm going to defeat this monster. It is going to be hard, it's going to be grueling, but the other side of it, I can look back and go, I have leveled up so much, I've gotten so much better. If you can figure that out, then you can actually break down the NPC of your game, the system that is put in place in order to help you move from being an NPC to a main character. Figure those out, and you will absolutely start engaging in life a lot more. And once you've figured out the game you're playing, being able to develop a system is the next big step. You can go find one that works for you. You can use the real-life RPG system, or you can develop your own, making sure that you are not just trying to reach your goals, but you are also putting in a system so that if you do not achieve something on one given day, you still fall to the level of your systems. You still fall to that stage where you can continue moving forward, even at a base level. Once you figure out that system, everything else becomes easier. Your mind doesn't become overwhelmed, and you can start to properly put your efforts in towards the goals that you know you want to achieve. You can analyze what's important and then move forward in doing that, knowing that you have decided that this is the important thing in your life. You can then look back and see the progress you've made with this exact system. And finally, the fourth and the most honestly surprising stage of what I learned was that it cannot exist in an echo chamber. Everything you do will not exist in a single echo chamber. The fact you're watching this video means that it's not existing in an echo chamber. I am reaching people with the work that I'm doing, and that in itself becomes so motivating to me. I have seen hundreds of people who have either viewed my system, talked to me personally, or just overall watched one of these videos and seen that the progress they have made has been exponential in the time that they have been watching. Because it is simply them going, oh, there is others like me who can do this thing. And that simple motivation drives them to do something better. And then I see that, and it drives me to do something better. My system became so much more effective because I had other people showing me their insights, giving me the power to then look at something beyond myself and go, oh, this is important for my guild. This is important for my people. And that helps drive my actions even further. So if you find yourself lacking in this sort of thing, feel free to come join in the Discord. There's a link in the description below, where we are actually trying to gamify our lives and make ourselves better because of it. So whether it's the Discord or just other people around you trying to achieve good things as well, see if you can find people that are along journeys that are like yours. Trying to gamify life is an exciting one. If you can share that excitement with other people, then absolutely you're going to be making so much more progress than you would be by yourself. So all in all, I think this past year has been one of the most impactful that I've ever had. Being able to gamify my life and live it like a video game has been so enriching, and the results that have become of it have been absolutely astounding. A year ago, I would not have thought that I'd be in the position I am right now, being able to effectively live life by making these tools and systems for people like myself who just want to improve life through the lens of playing a video game. And again, if that's you, there's links in the description below to everything I've mentioned, and hopefully you continue along with this journey. Click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next couple of days where I'm bringing out quite a few more videos because I decided, you know what, it's been my birthday again, time to level up once again.